Hello YouTube. Today I got a really good treat for you. Today I'm gonna actually build a computer in less than 45 minutes, but I'm gonna show you how I did it in 10. Okay, here are the computer parts. I'm gonna have the details to, the right of your screen in the little comments box. Okay, so we're gonna start off. Oh, I forgot, it's already open. Yeah, makes it easy. Yeah, so this is this computer case that I bought. It came with a power supply. I know they're pretty cheap, but it's not a fancy dancy computer. So there's the old one right there, the old computer. But let's see if we can set the camera up. Nope, can't set it up. Don't think it'll work. No, don't think so. Okay, so I'm just gonna go on with the case now. So yeah, removing it from its package. You probably want to keep the plastic wrap because it's in case you have to return it, should something be defective. So I'm keeping the foam and the plastic wrap. So yeah, there's the power supply. It's like a 320 watt back panel, no fan, so I'm not gonna worry too much. I'll put in a fan later, not in this video. So yeah, and it's a pretty neat mid-tower case. It's nothing fancy. It's not for gaming. Yeah, and I picked this up for about 35 bucks at a Best Buy. Well, Fry's Electronics. Okay, here we go. Gigabyte G4 1M motherboard, and it uses the Intel G41M chipset, which is pretty slick if you guys have seen it. It's like the G33 and the G31 kind of like combined, and it's pretty slick. So here's all the drivers. Here's the IDE and the SATA cables, which you probably won't use the IDE cables anymore. The front panel, or I mean the back panel plate, it's very important. Keep that, put that aside. And the motherboard, very important, which, well, you couldn't really, get very far without it. Oh yeah, and for all of you who don't know, I am left-handed, so I'm holding the camera with my right hand. Yeah, very few people are left-handed, I know, and yeah, so I'm doing this with my left hand. Yeah, so first you want to use your box. It's a very good surface to put your motherboard on after you take it out of the anti-static bag, because you don't want to have any electrostatic discharge or anything from the cotton or on, I'm doing this on my bed here, or anything from there. So you don't want to be shorting out your motherboard, which is brand new. This motherboard has 2 DIMM slots, so we can only have up to 4 gigabytes, I think, maybe 8, I'm not sure, but yeah, so here's our 4 gigabytes of DDR2. But going back to the motherboard, yeah, it only has 2 slots. So I think the maximum is 4 gigabytes for this motherboard. I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, so taking the RAM out, I'm pretty sick because I can do this with one hand. You know how hard these packages are to open? No scissors, no nothing, just like that. Boom, open. Okay, let's get to installing it. So when you want to do this, you want to make sure that the box is on a good surface, because you will be putting some significant amount of pressure on the stick of RAM, putting it into the slot, and making the white latches on the left and the right lock in. It takes a pretty good amount of pressure, and for those who have never done it before, you may feel like the board is about to break, but don't worry, these things are pretty tough to break. So go ahead and push your RAM into the slots. Use some good pressure, decent pressure. Here you go. See, I have to tilt the camera away to put my shoulder into it. That's how much pressure you have to put in sometimes. But after they're in, wiggle them around, and if they don't come out, then I think you're set. Okay, so moving on to the processor. Now press down the lever and pull it out towards you and lift it up. Then pull over the top plate. Now there's a protective black plate on top of the latch here, and you must remove it to install your processor. So go ahead and remove that. Set that aside. If you take the motherboard black, you will need that black plate. So keep it handy, keep it near you. You will need that black plate. They will not accept it without that black plate. So, go ahead, check and make sure that, no pins have been bent or anything inside the socket. And go ahead and we're going to get our processor out. Now, I have a Core 2 E8500 3.16 gigahertz. It shows up in the computer as being 3.2. So let's just call it 3.2. And besides, it just sounds faster, 3.2. than 3.16. So yeah, it's got a 6 megabyte L2 cache, which is pretty high. I think it's the highest. The only thing higher than that I think is probably the Core i7, but I'm not sure. But it's the fastest dual core in the dual core series without going to the Extreme series. It has a 1333 front side bus, so it's pretty fast processor. With I'm not sure what the multiplier on the processor is, but you know it's probably pretty high to get to 3.2. So go ahead, set it in the socket, make sure that's lined up. I think I had it lined up, but I had to just double check here because it didn't want to ruin the processor, especially since the processor cost $189 plus tax. So let's not ruin it. So there you go. Once you're set, you can go ahead and grab a fan, which I think I am making sure that the thermal grease is on and everything here. That's why the camera is shaking around a bit, but this gives you a little time to look at the motherboard and stuff. I'm not really paying attention to filming. I'm actually paying more attention to the heatsink. And okay, there we go. So now you just put your heatsink on, make sure the holes line up, and then I don't think I show it, but you push down on the pins and they automatically lock. There's no screws. It's pretty nice. Okay, so once your heatsink is all set, then you take the fan cable and you plug it into the socket that says CPU fan. I think I rotated. Yep. Okay. CPU fan right there. Always near the processor. Now that's a vital step because without this your processor would overheat. This powers the fan. So go ahead and plug your wires in there. See, CPU fan even tells you right on there. It's pretty neat. And yeah, so you're pretty set. Just make sure that your wires don't restrict your fan movement because that wouldn't be good. Okay, so I've pre-installed the motherboard here, so because it's a boring step, but you guys should be able to do that. And these are your input wires, as you see here, and they go into this little bus right here. Now you need to read the manual because it'll always be different for every motherboard. As you can see in this next photo here, my grandma took this. I'm actually reading the manual for once. I very rarely read the manual, but this was that one little condition where I had to read the manual. So okay, so after that it took me about 5 minutes, and that's it right there. And I even took a little bit step further, and I took a little bread zip tie or a twisty tie, whatever you call it in your region of the world, a twist tie, and I made sure that it was going to be neat and pretty because when I do a job, I make sure it's done right, and that's one of my staples whenever I do it. So that means all my wires are up to the right, my power supply up there. Yep, all the cables are all wound up. Okay, so now we're moving on here. I forget what's next. Oh yeah, and those are the audio and the front panel switches right there. So yeah, that's what those wires down there are for. Just make sure, yep, like I said before, make sure that your wire doesn't restrict your fan. Okay, now installing the graphics card. Make sure that you take out the panel, install it, and when you make sure you put the screw in, because very few times people forget to do that, and it'll see, I'm screwing it in. The graphics card will actually come loose after a while. So put the screw in on the top. So yeah, this is a GeForce 6200. I know it's an old card, but it's not a gaming computer, so it really doesn't matter. And once the graphics card's installed, this one doesn't have any power requirements, power hookups, so it's pretty much good to go as it is. Yeah. So just make sure that all your wires are connected. I've previously installed the hard drive and the disk drive, so because that takes the most time for me, because you have to unscrew the front of the case. Yeah, here we go. This is the motherboard power. You must make sure that this is connected, because you'll start your computer and it won't start, and you'll be pretty mad if you forget. And this little 4-pin up here, this is the most common problem. People miss this when they're installing usually, and it's the ATX power. It's a 12-volt little junction, and I'm not sure what exactly it powers, but it's very important, and your computer won't start without it. So here's some completed pictures with it all connected. Like I said, I've previously installed the hard drive and the CD drive because I had to unscrew the front panel, and it was just too long, and it would have taken up a lot of space. So well, thanks for watching, you guys.